Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Happy Friday to you, TGIF and all that. Welcome to our ŌNCE Club Weekly watch series. This is episode 2, and we have the lovely Alys Mcmahon, who's the commercial director of Private Label London Dubai. Today, we are talking a lot about our some very specialized treatments that seem to be very popular within the custom luxury watch market. And Alys is going to very kindly sort of talk us through these different types of customizations. She'll also be sort of giving us some examples of what Private Label London do, so you can really have a visual of what they typically look like. But I think this would be really interesting if you're a watch specialist, if you tend to kind of source and deal in watches, or if you would like to and you'd like to have more information, or you even have a client where they know that they're very keen watch collectors. I think this would be really interesting for you, because I think from my very limited experience, what I'm seeing is that those who are very much watch enthusiasts or collectors or what have you are getting to a point where they want something else, something new, and that doesn't always necessarily come around. So customization with very established watches such as Patek Philippe and Audemars and Rolex, for example, customization is the next step. And I think this will give you a really great in-depth look into what these sort of customizations look like, how they work, and what that means for the market as well. So hello, Alys, welcome.
Hello. The sun came out just as you introduced me as well, which is
lovely.
Welcome.
Natural, look at that natural lighting, divine intervention.
No money needed on a light ring. Yeah. Hi everybody. Yeah, really excited to be back for episode 2 of the watch series. So today we're gonna, as Dominique's mentioned already, we're going to be talking about customization and just a few simple terms that hopefully you'll be able to use. So we'll talk about what the market knows them to be, and then we'll talk about specific ones to private label, which are obviously developed in-house. So let's get started.
Yay.
So we'll cover today what our private label custom coatings are, and also just a brief explanation on how they're actually applied to each piece. We'll also then cover just some visual examples of each coating. I know we've got 30 minutes today. For anybody who kind of wants more information, definitely get in touch via ŌNCE Club, and we can definitely talk to you. It gets very geeky at certain points, so I'll give you guys a top line just to kind of keep you interested. It all becomes very chemical endorsed after that. And then lastly, we're just going to look at some of the features and benefits of customizing a watch. And again, to Dominique's point, where you may have certain clients in terms of, in terms of their understanding of custom, general thoughts on custom within the market, comparing to secondary factory set pieces, but also, some of the benefits and features of actually how custom can work for your clients as well. So we've got a couple of coatings that we'll talk about. So in-house, we have the first pieces here. The first words are actually our private label in-house terms. So these are used by us, and usually there's a whole collection under each of these. So we have our black range, which are actually black DLC coating. Now DLC stands for diamond-like carbon coating. DLC is actually a term used within the entire watch market. It's a type of metal coating. It's actually used for many different types of metal coatings. So aviation companies use it for, aeroplanes and any kind of aviation metals that need to be hardened, essentially. And also DLC is used by NASA as well, which is quite a fun fact, which I actually only learned recently. Makes sense when I explain to you a little bit. It's kind of cool. Yeah. You've then got SPECT. Now, SPECT is a brand new ceramic coating. We actually use these for our coloured range, but actually ceramic coating in its kind of entirety, it's not something necessarily new, but just allows you to play around with colour color combinations. So I'll tell you more about that as well. Then we have our reflect range, which actually represents a lot of our diamond set pieces. Now, a lot of you, if you're not necessarily used to, or if you don't have a hugely in-depth knowledge of customization in the market, you'll be most familiar with this type of range. So diamond set pieces, there's a lot of customization companies out there that are setting watches in their own ways, but using diamonds to set. So you'll be fairly familiar with that. We then have what we call our attract range, which basically relies on a slightly different type of application method, but creates a gold, could create a gold finish, or a kind of a sort of a petrol slash what we call petroleum finish, which I'll show you more about. And actually that's the one kind of one of the most exciting ranges that we actually have, which is a bit of a worldwide first. So I'm excited to share that with you. And then refract, I wanted to just keep kind of hanging on the edge, a little bit of a cliffhanger here. This is something that is new and exciting. So I mean, I could have taken this out, but I just thought, whilst we're on the ranges coating subject, let's talk about that.
I like that you're really building up the excitement. I like that.
I mean, there needs to
hang on for. I like it.
It's gonna need to be. That would be our episode 3, I think you'll find. So going on to our visual examples. So again, I've kept this fairly simple, but under our black range, so going back to the DLC, the kind of the wider watch term of DLC coating, again, some of you will be familiar with it, with seeing blacked or blackout watches or DLC'd watches. Again, this is not something unique to us. It's done widely in the market. There are a lot of customization companies that just specialize in this type of coating. But this is actually an incredibly hard wearing coating. It stands for diamond-like carbon. So as I say, it's a very hard layer applied over the substrate, usually steel. This application method is actually reversible, so without any damage to the watch at all. So it actually allows people to be able to play around with, even if it's an older piece that they have in their collection, it allows them to switch it up a little bit. Now this piece is kind of fully custom. We've actually put in our own custom dial and set of hands in here, but just for now, just focus on the actual metal coating.
So I have some questions. One very geeky, maybe one not so much. So essentially, here on this particular piece that you're showing us, it appears that it's sort of matte and also shiny. Is that something that comes with in the DLC, or is there something else on top of that to kind of have the two different finishes?
That's actually a very, very good question. So DLC is applied to whatever substrate is underneath. So in this case, it was actually a brushed and polished steel. So it will mimic what's underneath it.
Oh,
now,
okay, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, if you wanted a full shine DLC on this type, I mean, this is a Milgauss, right? So this and it's on an oyster set bracelet. So if you wanted to potentially have it all shiny, then we would be able to polish the entire piece before it goes to then be DLC'd, which means obviously the DLC we would expect to come out fully shiny. Likewise, if you wanted it more matte, then the shiny parts would be treated to create the same substrate as the original matte part, and then it will be DLC'd, as we call it, and then you would expect to see it come out matte, fully matte.
Okay, and then in terms of the actual process, when we're talking about, especially with you sort of mentioning that it's completely reversible, is it a spray? Is it a what's the machinery involved? Like, I'm very interested to maybe next time we can get some video of it actually being applied.
Oh yes, there are actually loads of videos online of this as well. So this is actually gas treated. Now again, this is going to go very, very geeky. But there are a couple of different ways that you can do it, but it's basically gas treated and then kind of, it's not ionized, but it's treated. It's a chemical exchange of kind of gases, essentially. That's the easiest way that I can term it. And then actually compared to some other treatments, so we can go on to the specced pieces as well. These are our ceramic pieces, but actually ceramic coating is something that is a completely different treatment, and it's actually oven cured. So it gets sprayed exactly as you say, Dominique, in this case, and then it gets treated in an oven. I think the temperature is like 250 degrees or something in order to set that. And in terms of the ceramic coating, it's not, I would say it's not as hard wearing as DLC. So DLC is scratch resistant, more or less indestructible. You can bash it around, you can, you know, run it over, do whatever you want to do. With ceramic coating, and in this case specced, it's much more prone to it's incredibly hard wearing, but it's definitely, if you were to scratch it against a wall, then the likelihood would be that it would also, you know, suffer the effects of that. And that I would say wouldn't be reversible. So I wouldn't advise, if you have something that's ceramic coated, I wouldn't advise to have it reversed. Not unless potentially you wanted to have it remade into a different color, and therefore the top layer would be a brand new piece essentially. Okay. Yeah, so that, as I say, it's very hard wearing, but I would say DLC is probably the hardest wearing of all of the treatments.
And when reversing it, is that a similar treatment that they use and it kind of essentially just eradicates what they've done?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of these pieces have to be, I mean, we're working with still models, right? I would advise that this is always still. It's much harder to do it with a softer, like a gold, rose gold, for example, white gold, just because they're a softer metal in general. So these types of treatments apply the best to still models. But yeah, absolutely. So the treatment in order to reverse it would be the reverse of what's just happened, essentially.
Okay. And I suppose for both, it'll be interesting to know as well, when looking at these models, what type of clients do you see going for like a black versus a specced, you know, in terms of just more from a point of view of, you know, if you're not sure who your watch customer is yet, but you want to sort of test out some marketing, if you will, what would you advise, or what are you seeing in terms of the market, in terms of interest?
So in terms of the black and kind of more wider known DLC pieces, they definitely appeal to more of a male client base, and actually they tend to be more. We don't see a huge amount of these sales happening in the summer months, just because it's just dark. So what I would advise is, if somebody was looking for a piece like that, and it's a kind of, it touches on the kind of the sportier models, I guess, you know, it kind of keeps it very, very clean. It's very simple. It doesn't have to be over the top. You can see in this case, and a lot of these have this similar look, they're fairly understated. But it's actually a really nice way to just give something a little bit of an update without actually going, you know, fully gem encrusted, or, you know, for a super bright ceramic color. But actually, one of the things that we've found that a lot of people are doing now, especially in the summer months, is, and we are doing this ourselves, and we've had clients asking us, is actually switching out the strap for a rubber strap, which you could choose in kind of many different colors. And again, that's something that allows the piece to be worn in a much kind of more summery way, without it feeling, you know, too dark. So it definitely appeals to a female client base as well, but we have found that there are, you know, typically DLC was one of the first, I guess, metal treatments to come around that became widely popular for the basis of making something more unique. So I guess it was one of the first kind of customization techniques to come about. And then with the specced pieces, I mean, in this case, this is something that there's actually no one else in the market doing this. Ceramic coating has been done by a lot of companies in white. I mean, even companies, even Swatch, for example, have chosen to go down a kind of a white ceramic route. And this type of piece is actually very well received by both female and males. I guess what you change around in here is you mess around with the styles. I mean, these pieces here, this is a 41 mil in the background, and then these two other pieces, the mint and then the white, are they're a smaller size watch. So it doesn't really matter the size of the watch or the style, just as long as the original watch is steel, which obviously, you know, allows for this kind of treatment. But it's definitely, you know, it's a fun way to kind of just switch up a watch, or just have something that's slightly, you know, it's off the beaten track.
No, totally. I think you definitely get, like, even just, you know, maybe it's the imagery as well. I'm getting like a Wimbledon feel. Like,
Okay.
it does feel very summery. It feels very kind of I think it kind of gives it also, you know, like if you're a little bit more athletic or sporty, if you do
Right.
activities, but you still want it to be fun and fashion forward
Yeah.
and stylish, I think definitely. And also being able to, and I assume that you're not particularly limited to colors.
No, exactly.
So
No,
yeah,
exactly.
like you said, you can really play about, and I think it allows you to have much more flexibility in terms of what you like, because sometimes, you know, you don't always want a metal, or you don't want something that's
Yeah.
dark. You want it, especially if you don't wear also a lot of accessories in general.
Right.
From a
Yeah.
client's perspective, I can see why that's very appealing for sure.
And then on the flip side of that, even for clients who do wear a lot of accessories, and there's always there's a real mix of clients who potentially may want to wear their original pieces they already have on their wrist. We touched on this in the first episode in terms of understanding what else a client is wearing on the same wrist that their watch is being worn. But just touching on, you know, it might be that a client wears yellow gold or white gold or rose gold, or a mixture of all of them. So this type of treatment on both the black and the specked pieces allows for you to blend those in without it looking too stark by being one particular color of metal. So it's quite a nice mix. And then just to touch on your point, Dominique, about the sports watch side, the majority of, I mean, Rolex specifically, I know these are all Rolex, but actually a huge proportion of the market is driven by the sports steel models. So you know, it's you know, that's been the case for a number of years. And actually Rolex, AP and Patek have all brought out a sporty model of sorts, or a sporty range. So to that point exactly, Dominique, that's, you know, it definitely adds to a slightly more sportier feel. Okay, so now we have both our Reflect range and our watches from our Reflect range, as well as our Attract range. So on the left, the Reflect range for us talks to gem set pieces. And as mentioned previously, a lot of the market is very, very heavily influenced by gem set pieces. There's not really a right or wrong way to do this. We specifically work with, you know, some fantastic artisans who create these pieces, you know, on our behalf. And actually it's the setting of this. So if somebody is a kind of big jewelry lover, or just wants something really, really special, it's limitless in terms of, you know, what diamonds can be applied where and in what colors. So this is actually a fully set white diamond piece of the case, as well as the bezel, which has color treated stones. Now these can be either specially gem set, or semi-precious stones that are gem set, or they can be color treated. So it gives you an indication into price range based on that. And in order to sometimes go down you know, if you wanted to start talking to your client about these pieces, but they weren't, you know, they wanted to play around with pieces versus actually invest in, you know, a whole load into a gem set piece that they might not love, then actually a color treated stone is quite a nice, it's quite a nice entry level price point for the look.
Oh, sorry.
No, I was going to say, and that's also just finished by the actual gem set bracelet on here as well.
Yeah. So in terms of a piece like this to be completely fully set with gems, I mean, what are we looking like in terms of time?
Mm-hmm. Great question.
And then also I would, you know, do you think that and like how many people, you know, does that all go to like one I don't know what's the right term, but like the right artisan who does that particular piece, or is that several? I'm fascinated because it just, you know, clearly that's a lot of work.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and actually it's a really good question. So with many different people across the world in terms of artisans, they all create different pieces. So we have a couple of people that work directly with us, whereby they'll create as and when we want. Now, in simple terms, you could have the case and the bracelet produced by one person. You could then have the dial and the bezel produced by another 2 separate people. So we do a lot of pieces in-house, or with very few artisans, and then everything we have assembled is done here in the UK. And in terms of the choices around that as well, it's fairly limitless. We play around a lot with design in-house, and actually that's the difference that you'll see across the market with any customization brand, is that understanding your client base will allow you to be able to then create custom pieces. So as an example, with this piece, the client that we actually produced this for, they wanted the colorfulness and playfulness of the bezel, but actually it might be that another client just wants to have white diamonds the whole way around and just keep it fairly simple and just have the color in the enamel dial. In terms of lead time, you're looking at around 4 to 6 weeks for a piece like this. For our ceramic pieces, you're looking at probably 4 to 8 weeks, and that's just because it involves a few kind of added layers.
Okay, interesting. And do you think that you or your team, because there are, like you said, I think in terms of looking at the reflect models or similar, whether that's with you or with other companies, this is something probably what we're most affiliated. This is what feels the most familiar in terms of what we see a lot. This is what we see Instagram. This is what we see on actors, singers, what have you, people in the music industry as well. And do you think that you're able to recognize very good work versus not so good work?
That's a great question. That's a really great question, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've spent a lot of time with the artisans that we work with, and we actually hold them in such a high regard, and the bar is incredibly high. You will find, I mean, I've mentioned this before, customization in the market, especially around gem set pieces and the DLC, the blacked out pieces, that there's a huge array of people in the market that are doing either just that, or they're doing that within ranges. And to your point, Dominique, absolutely, you can see very quickly the differences between the types of setting, and also you can see depending on where a setting has been made in the world, you can start to understand where that is. So as an example, a lot of US customization companies, for example, they use a lot of kind of bulkier diamond set pieces. So if this, for example, was produced in the US, or a like for like piece in the US, the diamonds would look visibly different in terms of how it actually appears. So being able to kind of have the ability to set in this kind of fine way, as we've refined over the years, allows us to create just slightly more finessed pieces. That's the right way.
Sure. No, yeah, and I think also, I mean, obviously, when you're doing these custom pieces, it is very much an eye of, if you want to be fancy about it, eye of the beholder. It's really about what that particular client wants. And something important to obviously note and to mention to clients, I think, is that once you take a Rolex and you customize it, that completely changes the value or potential value in terms of resale, investment, etc.
Investment, yeah.
So,
absolutely.
If that's an important thing to you, there's also your client, I think that's something you need to know. And I suppose, that being said, it doesn't mean that it doesn't come with its own value in terms of a certain way, and therefore I suppose whether you do it, not to say that either one's better or what have you, but depending on where you get it done, that could also be a factor, whether or not the type of grade of the VVS.
Yes. Yeah,
being used, the type of gemstones, the size. These are all things that actually can play a huge role in terms of value for potential sale, if that's something that you might be interested in.
Yeah, and you have to definitely be aware, as if you're looking for a customized piece for someone, then you definitely need to be aware, to your point, of the grade of, or the quality of diamonds that are used in each piece. For example, a very low grade white diamond versus a much higher grade like a VVS, as you say, you'll see the difference quite quickly. So not only the setting, but also just the overall color of the piece, and you'll kind of get a feel for it. A lot of these pieces, the gem set specifically, they have a really nice weight to them. So I'll talk a little bit more shortly just about kind of the benefits of a custom piece, and just the reasons for why someone would go for a custom piece instead of buying a factory piece. So, whether that's it's not exclusive, but it definitely has an effect depending on the quality of stones that you use.
Sure.
And then we have on the right, we have this is our Retrolium piece, or Retrolium treatment as we've called it, as part of our Attract range. This is actually something that, along with the ceramic specced colored pieces, is not something that's widely being done on the market at all. So this would be this is almost like it's like a DLC coating in terms of how it's applied, but the different chemicals that are used actually creates more of a PVD effect. So you'll generally hear this term a lot as well, if it's PVD or if it's DLC, and it just depends on the type of bonding that occurs. Now, what the difference with this type of a coating as well is that you can actually choose like a gold finish or a rose gold finish, or in this case we've done it's almost like a petrol, like an oil finish. Each piece actually comes out slightly differently, which is interesting from a research and development perspective when you're trying to create something that's quite similar looking. We've been playing around with these quite recently actually, but we're also, there's a really cool complement to these as well, which is it actually allows you to wear, many different skin tones can wear this type of piece, as well as female and males. And then we've tested it on quite a few different models, but actually the Milgauss seems to be a really nice one in terms of what clients have reacted to. This you won't necessarily see, well, you'll see nowhere else on the market right now, but it's just a really cool thing to be aware of. And this you can,
that's quite unique to what you guys do in terms of this Retrolium effect. This is not something.
Absolutely.
Okay, interesting. And in terms, and just, I know that's one side of it, but also is there anything to your knowledge where you've seen this on a factory setting side at all, or anything similar? I suppose not.
Actually, no. No, I mean, please get in touch if you have. we'd love to know. But no, I mean, these are metal treatments. Now that's not to say that they won't come out in time, but for sure at the moment it's not something that's done on a luxury scale within the watch market anyway.
And I think it's really interesting that you mentioned that they always come out slightly different each time, because sometimes that's about managing clients' expectations there.
For sure. Oh, absolutely.
Because sometimes they'll see something they like and they want it exactly the same, and you can't have it, basically.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing. I personally think that's a great thing to sort of let a customer know that you're in each way, each piece it's already unique, but then it's super unique even in the actual coating itself, because it comes out different every time. But I think it's just something that's very important to always note with a client.
Yeah, and I think as well, if you're focusing on selling this kind of treatment or any other treatment, it's always good to just send multiple images and videos just to show what pieces can look like in different lights. Of course, different people have their phone screen setting on different levels of brightness, for example, so that can have an overall effect as well. But I guess the important thing to remember is that these are customization techniques. So of course there is, part of a reason why a client would potentially be interested in something like this is to have something unique, and therefore there's a little bit of kind of artistic license there as well, which you would need to also inform your client of. of course, with something that's gem set, so like the reflect piece on the left here, that there's obviously much more of an understanding of how a finished piece will come out, but there may be variation of shading within the colored stones, or whether a client opts to go for semi-precious stones or even color treated. So yeah, absolutely, it's always good just to have your client fully understanding of you know, how artistic this process is. And we say that a lot of these pieces are works of art, so you know you have to love the process in order to love the piece at the end of the day.
100%.
So now we'll move on to just some benefits and features of customization. I think that the world of custom watches is a world that's evolving a huge amount. As I say, it started in the kind of, you know, a few years ago with DLC blacked out pieces. There's always been gem set pieces both across jewelry and watches. But I guess the main sort of point, I guess, to address, almost as if it's the elephant in the room, is that you may well come across clients who are real purists. Now, I've been able to work with clients who have been purists and then over time are actually building an incredible custom collection as well. And actually what that's been able to allow us to do is to basically educate a wider client base. Now, I think that's part of the fun of obviously what you'll be able to do with your client. By understanding what's in their collection already, you can start to do certain treatments. And actually these examples that I've just mentioned allow a client to sort of dip their toe into certain aspects of it. So, you know, the colored pieces, for example, you could opt to go for a slightly smaller model that, you know, it doesn't need to be a kind of a garish over the top bright color. Equally with the reflect diamond set pieces, it might be that you actually choose to go for a diamond set dial, so something very simple in order to allow a client to kind of play around with, you know, with the style. Each piece, it can be unique. It's also quite modern. I mean, look, we've been able to understand the client base, you know, over the last kind of 5, 6, 7 years, you know, from moving, or from understanding, I should say, having an understanding of the secondary market world of watches. So, you know, helping them to get these really key, cool pieces that are absolute must-haves, to then build in this collection and then building in this kind of real modern take on, you know, how to wear something unique and how to make it unique to them.
And I suppose in some senses, when it comes to factory models and kind of, you know, their design process, and, you know, when they put out their own collections, I suppose customization kind of is actually kind of leading the way in kind of different techniques to kind of let them explore. Yeah. Obviously, you know, a great standard model is a great standard model. That's why it's there. That's why it's been around for all this time. But I suppose when they start pushing those boundaries and we start seeing newer collections, I suppose it's probably, or it should be fair to say that that's probably being influenced somewhat by what we're seeing in the custom market.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's something that it's definitely very complementary to a collection, whether it's, you know, and a lot of, you know, kind of the bigger main watch companies are now starting to explore, you know. So I mean, Patek releasing a lot more gem set pieces than they did before. Is that because they understand how the custom market is going, and you're speaking to a real, you know, purist Patek fan, for example? We don't know, but for sure it's definitely much more evident now as clients have evolved in their tastes, that actually having this uniqueness to their pieces is something that's definitely on their radar, whether it's in a full form of having something absolutely, you know, out there and crazy, or whether it's just, well, actually I want something slightly unique now, I'm going to opt for, you know, a colored dial or something. So and actually to that point, you know, the options are entirely limitless. You know, you can really, the infinite number of changes of pieces that you can do to update a piece. I mean, that's the other thing, right, is that you don't necessarily have to be buying a watch every single time you want a new look. You know, the ability to be able to change bezels and dials and work around, you know, work around these different designs allows you to have, you know, an infinite number of choices.
That's
I
actually
guess,
a good point. So it's not about every time building a customized watch. It's sometimes about taking something that you already own,
yeah,
and changing that up. And actually, that's a really nice way to and you know, I'll always keep referring this back to kind of like a shopper client relationship. But you know, this is great for gifting. This is great
yeah,
for you to, you know, if someone wants to do something special, especially for these types of clients who, if they're already sort of in that luxury watch market, they're
hmm,
at a stage of you know, what to get the person who has everything in a sense.
yeah,
So I think this is a really great way to kind of take something that they already love, that you know that they're going to wear, and kind of give them something new. Or it's a great way to you know, maybe you've inherited something and you want to make
hmm,
a nice tribute. You know, these are great ways to kind of get your customers to talk about things that they might not have thought of before.
yeah,
um because you know, they don't have to necessarily start from scratch. They could already have something that's very special to them, and then they
yeah,
can make it more modern, make it more complementary to their personal style,
absolutely.
etc.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's the thing, you know, I guess at the end of it, it's a great word to end on, but you can have fun with this, you know, it doesn't have to be too serious. You can change things. I mean, as I say, dial and bezel swaps are quite a nice way of not doing anything too treatmenty, for want of a better word, but also allow you to, you know, change something up. You might have a date, just for example, that you've inherited, a 41 mil that you've inherited, and you know, it might be a fantastic watch, and then you might just want to update and put a cool dial on it just in the summer, for example. So there's really easy ways of being able to just have fun with pieces, and that's the important thing, is that, you know, there's that's what the whole market talks to. It's, you know, you don't have to be kind of, you know, just wearing the factory pieces. You know, you
And
can
even with the
switch it up.
yeah, and even with the customization itself, as you've mentioned a couple of times, this could be something that you do seasonally. It doesn't,
Hmm.
it's not forever. You can actually revert back, you can change it again, which is actually something I didn't factor in actually, until you mentioned it, that it's very easy to interchange. Well, I mean, I say easy, I'm no expert, but
Yeah.
it seems like it's quite normal to kind of maybe change it up once in a while,
Yep.
the same watch, so you don't, and you can revert back to, you know,
Yeah.
the original, or you can have a little fun like you said. It can make all the difference, and like, you know, it's fascinating actually to,
Mm.
you know, in terms of say if they wanted to just do kind of like, say, a more scaled down customization where it is just the bezel or the dial or what have you. I mean,
Mhm.
does that change the lead time dramatically?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I mean, if it was, and everything's on a case by case basis. So if a client just wanted a bezel, as you mentioned, then of course it would be a much shorter lead time. Now it might be that, for example, you might want, you know, a specific color of, semi-precious stone, for example. It might be a birthstone color or something. So just depending on what options are available at the time. I mean, an actual bezel change on a watch can take less than an hour to actually complete. So it's just a case of actually having the piece, you know, set and you know, available at the time, and it can be very, very fast. But just the longest time that it takes to create something is or are the ceramic pieces, just because of the process that's involved. But typically you're looking at, you know, 2 to 6 weeks on average, depending on the scale of work involved that you'd want.
Cool, awesome,
That's it for
amazing.
this
So
week.
what's the coming soon? Can you give us a hint?
Wow. I mean, I can. So I'll actually. I mean, look, as we've kind of spoken through, we spend a lot of time kind of researching new ways of kind of working on pieces. But for us, we're going to be working on something that is. There may well be a combination of some of these treatments involved, but actually the outward effects are going to be very cool. So we're still in testing phase, as I say. I hope it doesn't fall off a cliff, so that episode 3 there's no reference to it. That's all I can say at this point in time. But yeah, it will be a combination of these. I mean, we're always testing new treatments, and that's actually because our client base demands that of us. They're constantly saying, well, what's next? What more uniqueness can I have with a piece? Or what else can be done? So it's really, I mean, look, there's so many ways that you can switch it up. But yeah, I'm looking forward to telling you more about that range as it comes in.
Really, really looking forward to hearing about it. I think that something that, which is the reason why we decided to kind of go ahead with this watch series, is that we're really looking to kind of be able to push other people's boundaries and opportunities in terms of what they can do in this particular market itself. And we always want to be sort of in partnership or associated with providing innovation and kind of forward thinking. And the fact that you guys are very much sort of saying that you're almost you're very much being asked by your client base, and that's where it leaves you to continue to push those boundaries, I think is really interesting. And I think it just means that always that the opportunities to customize something really unique with a client and are always there, completely limitless, and that makes it really exciting, because I think that sometimes when we talk about the luxury market in general, sometimes it can feel quite glass ceiling and finite, if you will. And I think this is, in one way, with specific to watches, is a way in which it actually doesn't have to be. And I think we also see a lot of similarity now in people reworking and customizing ŌNCE as a comparison.
Yes.
And I think it just takes it on to this whole other level of taking a classic piece and transforming it into something that can feel incredibly personal, incredibly unique, and then being able to kind of have all the tools through these types of sessions to kind of actually walk a client through that. Hopefully our members and our attendees really find useful, because I definitely will when I'm to my next watch client or next watch sale or what have you. So
I mean, it would be interesting to hear anyone who wants to just start having this conversation with clients, and say you don't necessarily, these sessions are definitely to be able to build knowledge across the entire market, but actually asking a client or kind of finding out what their initial thoughts are on their watch collections as well as custom. It would be really interesting, and as I say, through experience, I was able to convert quite a few clients a while ago from being real purists, which I myself was one as well. I think I said this on the episode 1. I was never, I was a real purist, like, don't mess with a watch, sacrilegious, can't do it. However, the evolution and the understanding, especially given the acceptance of Hermès, for example, sneakers, massive market for it. It is talking to those people who are, who are craving that uniqueness. But at the same time, the good thing with watches, and similarly to Hermès and sneakers, is that customization, you can do as much or as little as you want to do. So if you just want initials on something, you can have that done. Likewise for watches, and actually that's the part that's most interesting, is understanding and bringing a client through the understanding of, okay, this collection of pieces that you have, be it bags, shoes, watches, is fantastic. Have you ever thought about designing something yourself, or doing something that just switches it up a bit just to make it more unique? So it will be fun to hear anybody's journey, kind of personal journey on that as this series goes on.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, to that point, if anyone watching is interested to know more around customization, have a few more questions around some of the ranges, or want to get in touch, I think, as I said, you can get in touch with us via ŌNCE Club. Alys is also a member of ŌNCE Club, so you can actually reach out to her directly. And as always, we do pop up the videos again. So if you want to also kind of like have any questions or comments on the platform, you can definitely talk about it there as well, so we can have a bit of an open forum about it. But and also, or maybe just tell us your views, your points of view, or your stories, except whatever, as Alys said. It'll be I'm fascinated to know, you know, the processes, the journeys, the requests even of what's happening in that market for sure. But thank you so much, Alys, for your time again. I think again, it's a really great episode and something that's just so much information to kind of digest and to kind of get into for our members. So I guess we'll see you in a month.
Definitely. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Dominique.
Okay, take care. Bye.
Bye.